What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Bourbon and Bullshit podcast with some good friends, great drinks, and a little bit of BS. So grab a seat, pour up something neat, and welcome to the show. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into Bourbon and Bullshit. Today is a very unique episode. We are recording across the pond with a great, fantastic content creator, David Jordan Melia, of Speakeasy UK. He's gonna correct how I pronounce his last name in a moment, and of Bohemian Mixology. So we have been trying to lock this in for a while because we've been loving his content. What's going on, David? How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Melia is the normal pronunciation, but
Melia.
I'm happy with absolutely anything. No, it's really good to be here. I'm glad we've finally synced these up in terms of the timelines.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good to finally meet and speak properly, to be honest with you.
Awesome, man. Same here, man. I've been a big fan of everything you put out. I think I discovered your content last year when I was looking for horror themed cocktails. And the fact that you were willing to you didn't gatekeep anything. So if anyone follows you, you could just say, hey, I need the simple syrup recipe or this, and you get it right in your inbox with easy instructions. His store is connected to his IG. So yeah, I'm so glad I got you on here, man. We are drinking, we always start every show with a drink of the day, and this one's unique. So David, do you mind telling us what makes Bohemian Mixology unique compared to other cocktail books?
Well, for me, when I started writing it, there was a lot of books in the cocktail space that focused on the same 50 to 100 cocktails, let's say, and it was a bit boring for me. I wanted something different, and I feel, how could I do something different that no one's done before? And it made a lot of sense to then give myself a challenge because I'm
Mhm.
always happy when I've got something hard, my back's against the wall, and
Yeah.
it's difficult. So I decided to ban all use of the traditional six base spirits, let's say. Um, so a cocktail book that had no vodka, gin, brandy, whiskey, tequila, or rum, which sounds mad, sounds crazy.
Sounds
And
incredibly
in many
difficult.
ways, yeah, it was very, very difficult. So I decided to pick six new base spirits: aquavit, chartreuse, mezcal, poitín, pisco, and absinthe, of course.
Mm.
And I used them as my six base spirits instead, which then was the basis for the entire book, and one of the drinks that we're drinking today.
Awesome. So you've quoted and said this is your favorite book, favorite drink in the book. Excuse me.
It might be my favorite book as well.
Oh, I hope so. But and I one of the first things I'm a little corny about this. I think a name is always awesome and it resonates. The name of the drink is fantastic. It's called the Vow of Silence. I'll let you explain what's in the drink and what inspired it.
Yeah, so for me, as you said, the name is so important with a cocktail, and more so than the name is the story behind it. So every one of the drinks for me needs to have a story tied into it. And this one, having green chartreuse in a last word, I wanted to do my own version of a last word. I decided to swap up the gin and add in yellow chartreuse to get a 60 ml split between green and yellow chartreuse. And I thought, how can I have a play on words that makes sense with the story of chartreuse and the last word? And obviously, the story behind chartreuse is that it's not a globally known recipe. It's known by
Mm.
two monks who keep it to themselves and don't share the secrets. So for me, Vow of Silence tying in with the monastery theme and the monks just made too much sense. And I'm very lucky that it turned out to be, I'd say, my favorite cocktail in the book because it's the only one that is made just with store-bought ingredients.
Mm.
Three spirits, fresh lime juice, you're good to go. And it's delicious, I think, anyway.
Yeah, no, so I won't lie to you. I tried it last week because it was anyone who's trying to get yellow chartreuse and green chartreuse, it is insanely difficult to find it here in the States, at least. You got to know somebody who knows somebody. And fortunately enough, I have some friends in the industry and they gave me a decent alternative, but I ended up getting some yellow chartreuse anyway. So those struggling, I see Strega is one of
Yeah.
the recommended alternatives for yellow chartreuse. Green chartreuse, I haven't found a great alternative. So luckily enough, I have it at home. As you can see in the back, it's still back there. But we're gonna go ahead and try it. You did a little bit of a unique one. You made a clarified. Uh,
Yeah, I like a clarified last word. So I thought, why not clarify the Vow of Silence as well? And the comparison between the red original drink and the yellowish color that's coming here is really interesting. For me, it's a lot of the coloring of the Campari that has been stripped out
mhm.
using the milk wash technique, and it's just as tasty, if I do say so myself.
Well, let's start out. Now you have something I have to try next week. Watch. Cheers. Let's try.
Yeah, no, cheers, man.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. People run from Campari, and I love Campari. That little bit of
Yeah.
bitterness is just perfect. This is a great fucking. Sorry for the language, but yeah, no, it's my show. This was a great drink, man. I really do enjoy it, and it's so elegant too. If you actually, when for those, I'll post it in the show notes and in the Instagram, in the socials, all that, and I'll link yours because yours is probably going to look substantially better than mine. Um, it's a gorgeous looking drink. It stands out. It's elegant. It's delicious, and you could probably drink this all day. So great freaking job, man. So I just love it. Love to see it. And that was a very unique undertaking. You want to have like those, eliminate those real the go-tos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if by doing something so extreme, it guarantees a book that no one else has written, and that was
That's
how I was going about it.
yeah, you weren't go ahead. Please go ahead.
Now, for me, it's I really want to chase the unique and the original, and in this day and age, it's impossible nearly to have an original thought and have something that someone hasn't done already. And I'm yet to see anything like this in the cocktail space.
Mhm.
I'm just setting the boundaries so hard means you've got to be extra creative to push through.
Mhm.
Um, for this cocktail in particular, and many others in the book, to be fair, because this is probably one of the simpler cocktails because it's just measure and shake. It's not too much going on. But I wanted to make sure each cocktail was greater than the sum of its parts. Don't
Mhm.
get me wrong, green chartreuse, yellow chartreuse, Campari, unbelievable products, so much flavour. But I wanted something that, when combined, takes it to that next level. And for the book itself, although there's I think 8 original cocktails per chapter,
Mhm.
there was actually roughly 200 to 300 that we made for the book, and I only included the ones that were 9 out of 10 or above.
So you did like a bracket system. You're like, this one is nowhere
Yeah,
near as what I want to be a representation of myself.
yeah.
That's
So I
awesome.
didn't want a cocktail to be in there for the sake of being in there.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be in there because, one, I knew the cocktail well. I've tried it a few times. Two, the story really held up. And then three, I needed to be proud of it as well. I didn't want to put a drink in there just for the sake of having a cocktail book.
Mhm.
It seems incredibly easy in this day and age to just publish a book. Um, but
Yeah.
I wanted something that I was quite happy with as well, which is why I went down the whole self-publishing process too.
Mhm.
Um, I did everything myself, and that was one of the big things for me.
Mhm.
Photography, editing, writing, graphic design. I'd
Yeah.
never done any of it before, so what better place to start?
Wait, us back up. So you're telling me, hey, I want to make this recipe book. I want to make this cocktail book. So I'm going to learn skills that take people years to master, like, and take on this by myself and take the picture. So if anyone who's listening who hasn't checked out the book itself, the photography in it is fantastic. Let's even back up even more. David's whole IG for is shot beautifully. The cocktails are look gorgeous. You make the colors bright and beautiful. You make it like alluring. There are cocktails that when you look at it, you're like, I just want to have that. I don't know what's in it. I want to drink that. Like, I think you had like Eve's apple. You've had random cocktails in there. I was just like, I don't have half of that, but I want to buy all those things to be able to make it. So, but in this book, so you learned photography and mastered it for the purposes of this book.
So for the photography aspect, that was the one thing I actually was doing beforehand, thankfully.
Okay.
But I'd never printed my photography. I'd never got it packaged together. I'd
Mhm.
never written a book before. Again, I'd never used any of the software to create the file for the book.
Huh.
I'd never even really thought about how I wanted the book to look and be formatted.
Yeah.
It was completely on the fly. And what made it even harder for me is I only really had a 3 month window to get this all done. So from start to finish, including the Halloween campaign, because I wanted to launch it on Halloween, I
Mhm.
only had 3 months. And if I missed October 30th, I was so dead set on the Halloween launch that I would have had to wait 12 months. So I only had 3 months to get it done.
The commitment to that Halloween. Hey, look, I commend it. I love it. I think that that speaks volumes to like you wanted to make sure there's quality. You made sure it was a representation of you, and it came off well. Even when you spoke about the fact that you eliminated hundreds of recipes to make sure, hey, they're not good enough. We're not putting back. We're not putting a negative, but not negative, a subpar product forward. I
Yeah,
refuse to. And if it
no,
and the Halloween campaign being the flagship of it makes so much sense because
yeah,
those drinks attach massive names. Those drinks during that season, people are looking for an alternative aside from just pumpkin spiced beer or anything like that.
yeah,
People are looking for something fun, exciting, beautiful, and something a showstopper. And we're in that generation of IG, right? So if you're giving me a cocktail recipe and it could be IG ready and I can show it off to my friends and put it on socials, that attracts a lot of people. And let's talk about the Halloween campaign a little bit, just because I'm getting sidetracked here. The production of even the Candyman, the props, all that. Did you have help with that,
yeah.
or was that you?
No, that was crazy. That was all me. So the hardest part of that,
Uh-huh.
again, the timelines were so difficult because the Halloween launch, the photos for that are actually in the book. So I
Mm-hmm.
needed to make sure the launch was ready before the book was even complete. So we needed to shoot this entire product launch before I even had the product.
Oh, you just make it. You're playing life on hard mode, David.
So, like at the back of the book, I think there's ballpark, let's say 50 or 60 additional recipes.
Yeah.
Within there, the actual Halloween cocktails are already written out and printed.
Mm-hmm.
But that, for most people, they do the product first,
Mm-hmm.
then the Halloween cocktails, then the launch. But I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure if I'm doing Bohemian Halloween cocktails, they should be in the book. Let's not miss out.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, everything from start to finish was I think 7 days in total, 7 different Halloween films that I decided to create a cocktail on, which is hard enough as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But then I decided to film each one specifically based on that film. The hardest Candyman was brilliant. I
Yeah.
enjoyed getting the hook for that. That was really fun.
Uh,
The Wicker Man was a bit crazy. I
yeah.
built, yeah, that was like a 4 foot wooden like pyre that we
You
just set on fire.
you built a
That was
4 foot
real.
pyre. That was real.
Yeah, that was real. Yeah. I wasn't a very good video editor back then, so I just had to do it all in real time. uh,
That is so
uh,
cool. Look, man, that's pretty awesome. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna share a lot of those on my
please
socials.
do.
So
Um,
because that wicker, all that I thought, oh, maybe there's some video production here, maybe there's some editing and
yeah,
some
I didn't have
CGI.
time to learn.
Mhm.
It was a case of what'll take me less time actually building it and just setting it on fire or learning how to make that look good in post. And I ended up deciding to just build it and set it on fire instead. Um, and the ring as well for that one in an old like scrapyard, I found an old TV. So
Mhm.
we just ripped the back out of the TV and put a fake hand in there, so all that was real. Um,
I
just
love this.
I just
I
don't
love
know
that.
how to do any post production, or I didn't then.
Mhm.
So it was just how can I film this, get the desired effect I want, and not have to touch it too much after the fact. Again, with the timelines I had,
Mhm.
the shoot days were just essential.
Mhm.
Trying to think what other drinks we had in there.
I can
Obviously,
go grab it. I
we had
have the book back there.
Pennywise as well. We had the we float it might be called,
Yeah,
or
it's called, yeah,
can't
we will
remember.
float to.
And that was just a huge amount of red balloons filled with helium. And just trying to make that work quite
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no,
So of all those Halloween drinks, look, anyone who knows me knows I'm I I love everything horror. There's a signed Freddy Krueger glove right next to me. There's a signed Jason mask to my left. There horror. That's part of the reason why I said I followed you, because I was looking for Halloween cocktails. So yeah, I have Candyman's signed poster. I have Matthew Lillard's Scream poster. I have all this stuff signed around me. What was your favorite one to come up with other than Candyman? I know Candyman came out gorgeous, but what was your favorite one to conceptualize of the Halloween run?
I'd say, to be honest, Candyman's probably the easiest to conceptualize because obviously I had the bees to play on, so I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to go down that bees knees route.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oof. The Freddy Krueger drink I did was really fun, because I wanted to play on the fact that you shouldn't be sleeping. You don't want to go to sleep. So I thought, well, espresso martini riff makes a lot of sense. Um, but I didn't enjoy the idea of all espresso martinis coming out the same coffee shade.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this. I don't know whether I've got a bottle of it here. I should do somewhere. It's a clear coffee liqueur,
Mm-hmm.
so completely colourless, but such a strong coffee flavour from
Okay.
the Copenhagen distillery,
Okay.
which are also one of the aquavit bottles that I use an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it made just too much sense. I ended up using this clear coffee liqueur, and I think with maybe a raspberry syrup to just
Mm-hmm.
go completely left field. And we ended up with this foamy red cocktail, which actually tasted like coffee, and it fits so well. And obviously, having the coffee that will stop you sleeping. So from a story point of view, that made a lot of sense with the Freddy Krueger angle.
Yeah.
Um, I really enjoyed that one. I really enjoyed the Pennywise drink as well, just because having the red Peychaud's float
Mm-hmm.
symbolised that red balloon floating up.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that on top. Um,
That's
but yeah, I'd say it's a tough call between a few of them.
yeah.
Um, but
It's
yeah,
like
no,
asking. It's like asking which one's your favorite kid. It's probably not the
it's tough to
easiest
say.
answer.
What one would you say jumped out to you out of the bunch?
I mean, so I'm going to tell you right now, I am completely biased because I'm a Freddy Krueger fan through and through. Like, if I could somehow pay Robert England to do my intro, I would do that. So that one jumped out to me first and foremost. Candyman jumped out because that's my fiance's favorite horror villain, and the simplicity of it, and just it's still gorgeous taste, like it just looked great, and your production was top tier. It made me want to watch The Wicker Man again because of how great that production looked. But the one that stood out was definitely the Freddy Krueger cocktail, because of not only me being impartial, but the clear coffee liqueur. Because I saw the ingredients. I've never heard of that distillery. I've never had anything from that distillery. It's not here, not something readily available for me. So it was unique in like I've never tried any of these spirits. So sure as hell, I'm planning on ordering a bottle from there. But probably I'm gonna try to find a list to order everything at once, as opposed to me just ordering one bottle at a
Yeah,
time, because that's what I've ran into when I ordered the Heritage. I don't know how to
yeah,
pronounce this. Poitín, Poitín,
Poitín.
Poitín. There we go. That wasn't one of the other spirits I never heard of. So, but definitely that's the one that stood out to me. In just overall, just your attention to detail. Like honestly, I thought that you had much more time and experience on that aspect of it than apparently came through. So
No, the
tells you.
photography side, yeah, that was
Mhm.
one thing I did have the experience of. But
Mhm.
my photography before the book was
Mhm.
nowhere near the level it was after. And another benefit, I suppose, is that this book has worked so well as a photography portfolio for me as well.
Mhm.
Because a lot of the photos are so different in there. I've tried to get, as I said before, the story means everything.
Mhm.
So having the props for each drink and having a certain style for each drink
Mhm.
meant that I kept pushing myself in terms of the photography, um, which again it's worked really well as a photography portfolio in the last few years.
Has that led into other companies or industries reaching out to you for your photography skills? So is that built
Yeah,
as a portfolio?
yeah. So it's, to be fair, one thing that probably goes unspoken, and I don't really mention too much on the social side because they're quite
Mhm.
disparate, is the fact Speakeasy is maybe like 10%, 15% of what we do.
Uh-huh.
A huge amount of the work is providing content, videography, and even menu development for bars and restaurants and brands globally.
Oh wow.
So Speakeasy in many ways works as the shop front for many brands to find us,
Mhm.
and then from there we design content that they need, or we're there when they launch a new product to do the event photography. We do everything, and I say we because it's not just me now.
Mhm.
Back when the book was, back when the book was launched, I should say, it was just me. But as the years have travelled now, that I'm lucky enough to have a brilliant team of ex-bartenders, current bartenders too, and
Okay.
absolutely brilliant experts when it comes to having an eye for photography as well.
That's awesome.
And it means that I don't need to be everywhere at once for a change, and it just makes life 10 times easier.
You went from a one-man show to a full production team. I mean, that speaks to the success. And
It was never the plan, but it ended up happening.
I mean, it's a happy accident, right? It just ends up working out, and now you're developing all that. And that I was actually going to ask you about that because I see, obviously, we saw the books, we saw the book, we saw the social media platforms, and what that was going to lead into, and what you've done, and what came first. I know that during your book, you had mentioned a little bit of a backstory. And was it first the desire to create content and put up cocktail recipes and all that, or what was the
Yeah.
motivation to build this brand?
So probably just I was making cocktails every now and then anyway at home, as we all were pre-lockdown.
Yeah.
I was probably one of the few pre-lockdown doing it rather than just in lockdown. But yeah, I was making the odd drink, and I had a few friends around the country who I didn't see as much as I used to, um, but they were really big into their cocktails. So they were working in industry, being really well acclaimed in the industry, winning some awards, and it was like, I want to try my hand at this. How hard can it be? Very hard is the answer. But
I was going to ask you that. I was like, did it dawn on you?
uh, so I thought, yeah, I've got an iPhone that takes photos, so it's not really stopping me. It turns out an iPhone wasn't really the best idea. And around maybe a year into it, I just posted on socials. I maybe had 800 and 900 followers. And I got the first brand reach out to me and just say, "We like what you're doing. Any chance you want to have a free bottle or two?" And I was like, "Obviously, like,
Yeah.
yes, please. Like, I'll take a
Yeah.
free bottle." Um, and then I thought, well, if I can get a free bottle using an iPhone camera, what could I get with a professional setup?
Mhm.
I turned out a lot more free bottles, to be honest with you. Um, so yeah, I ended up getting into bought my first little DSLR.
what
Um,
what brand did you end up going with?
I went for Canon, and I still shoot Canon now. So all the cameras that we've got, I'm looking at them now, a big cabinet full of Canon bodies, a lot of
Wow.
lenses. Yeah, and it's probably not the flashiest brand. I know everyone's into Sony at the minute, but it's what I learned on. Again, I've not had any training as a photographer, so for me, it was a case of let's stick this on manual and learn the hard way. And I did learn the hard way.
Mm.
I'd say about 9 months after I bought that first camera, it was just terrible. The content was awful. I mean, I only started doing video properly last year. So that Halloween launch was my first ever time doing any video. I had never recorded any video before that.
What?
Yeah, I don't know why I decided to do that. In hindsight, that's ridiculous. Uh, but yeah,
And it's like, what the
uh,
fuck was I thinking?
yeah, I'd never do anything that outlandish now. But yeah, I decided that well, videos are doing well on socials. I want the book to do well. I think when I launched Boho, I had 12 or 15K followers,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, videos working for other people, so let's make these videos. And yeah, it turned out okay, and now I post a lot of different video content. Some that I absolutely love and I'm incredibly proud of, and others that other people really love, which is good. And it's
Mhm.
nice finding that balance between what the community love and what I love as a creator or whatever I am now. So yeah, it's just a lot of it's about balance. I don't even know where that question was going, but I've went off on a tangent, which I always tend to
This is what this show's about, man. We're supposed to just it's supposed to just be a tangent, just talking.
do.
So yeah, so you jumped around. You did the what? When did you decide on the name Bohemian? Like other than the obviously the definition, like what was the journey there? Was it just let me look up for non-conventional or was it was
No,
there inspiration there?
I'll be honest. I don't even know whether that's actually finalised yet. I had about 6 or 7 names that I was
Really?
really unsure about. Yeah, and then I sort of landed on this, and I was like, let's just use it in the draft. We'll use it on the front cover, see what it looks like. And I
Mhm.
don't think I ever got round to actually changing it, so it's just
Really?
stuck. Yeah, I
All
think it's
right.
just. I think it slightly was inspired by Death and Co. Um, they had the subheading on the front cover.
Mhm.
I think it's Death and Company, Modern Cocktails, and blah blah blah. I can't
Mhm.
remember.
I have.
Um,
I could grab the book.
I think I've
But
got one as well behind me as well.
oh,
I will
let me
grab
grab.
it 1 second.
Yeah, hold on, me too. Ah, yeah. I have the Death and Co. Welcome Home, and I
Oh,
have
lovely.
the Modern Classic Cocktails.
Yeah. So it's the modern classic cocktails that I always thought it sounded very classy for what it actually was.
Mhm.
And I wanted to get that modern cocktails vibe in there. So I
Mhm.
decided that the subheading should definitely be alternative spirits and modern cocktails. But the actual title, I really wasn't sure on. So that I was just coming and going and coming and going. And
Mhm.
then yeah, at some point needed to draft the front cover. So
Okay.
drafted the front cover and then stuck with the name, which I'm really happy with in hindsight now. I do like the name.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time I was and ahhing whether it was a really good name or not. But yeah, I'm quite happy with it, to be honest.
It turned out well, man. I thought the name was perfect. When I was shopping for your book and I saw Bohemian Mixology, I was like, oh, it makes sense. We're drifting away from the traditional, trying something new and putting people outside of their comfort zone. So Bohemian makes sense. Let's go with it. I'd love to see it. And I know that you said you were making cocktails before the pandemic and just kind of making them at
Yeah.
home. Were you ever classically trained, or was this something that just, hey, my friends are coming over, I want to make an old fashioned or whatever?
So you'll see this like common thread with me that I've never been trained to do anything.
That's
Well,
fantastic. I love it. I love to hear it.
it's a slight lie. I've been trained to be an accountant because that was what my career was. So,
How
from
did
a
we get here?
finance point of view, I am fantastic. Um, but yeah, I left that all behind to do this. So obviously, when I was saying before about Speakeasy only being 10-15%, it's
Mhm,
because I now run the business of Speakeasy,
mhm,
which is dealing with the brands, dealing with the bars, restaurants, hotels.
mhm.
And I think the finance side and finance background has probably given me a leg up, to be completely honest, when it
Fair.
comes to dealing with that. That other traditional creators may not
Mhm,
have. Um, but yeah, I've not been trained on the drink side. I've not been trained on the photography. I've not been trained on anything besides the numbers. And the numbers don't really help, besides slightly when you're remembering specs. But yeah,
mhm.
I've never been taught. A lot of my life has just been trial and error, and I've applied that to the book as well in the cocktails. And I always I know where my boundaries are in life, which is
Yeah.
very good because I can just keep pushing past them. And I think as long as you're constantly trying to go further and further and further, you're going to grow as a person. You're going to learn a lot, which is why, as we see throughout the book, the back end of that book just goes really weird with techniques. I try and push the boat out so much. I spent maybe like 4 days perfecting the reverse verification method. Um,
Yes. I saw that
yeah,
was a
that was
unique
that
technique.
is not worth it whatsoever. So if you're thinking about doing that, don't. Uh, Save yourself and anyone watching this, save yourself so much time by just making the drink normally. You can buy all these mad ingredients and nothing will taste better than a just normal daiquiri with lime.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's probably
Yeah.
not what I should be saying, But
Uh, well,
I'll be
it's
honest,
about,
like,
hey, always be honest. Always be honest. Like, I mean, people appreciate someone being genuine. So for anyone who hasn't opened the book, there are some cocktails that are not intimidating at all. Like, hey, we have the ingredients. I can do this. I can make this. Even like an Earl Grey infused gin, like not gin, but you know what I'm saying. Like you could use these.
aquavit probably.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking about. And you do a very good job in the back of the book and giving you the exact step by step process of how you made these simples or how you made that a fat wash or how you made those infusions. So it's not, you made it very approachable from a novice, right? Where even in books like Deaf and Co, one of the things that I respected about them is even one of the drinks I really enjoyed from them was super simple, Buffalo Soldier. It is a Buffalo Trace aged, like infused with pecans that have been oven roasted with cayenne pepper and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. It was like, this is one of the easiest things I could ever make in my life. And it was absolutely delicious. At most, the most difficult part of your book is some of these things I might not have access to. like,
Yeah.
but you could find good alternatives to almost all of them. I mean, I had
hopefully.
no. I tried. I looked for almost everything. I was able to find almost everything other than their heritage, the Irish heritage one. But I still got it in the background. Right
Yeah.
See, I still got it. But
Yeah.
absinthe is readily available. Chartreuse is not impossible to get. You can get all these things. Mezcal is out everywhere, depending on the brand you want. Legal, you brought up, and you gave a really good breakdown of your recommended brands and what the flavors were and broke them down. And you made it very almost like, I hate to say dummy proof, but it was. It made it so if someone had any questions, it just flip to the next page and be able to get that answer. And
Yeah.
you can kind of get an idea of what that flavor is supposed to end up like. So no, I think you did a fantastic job of doing all these things. Was there a cocktail book? We talked about Death and Co, but was there a book that you looked at and you're like, this is my Bible. I love this. I love everything they're doing. Or was there always like, this is exactly what I've seen everywhere else? Like, where would, oh, I feel like
No, it's just, there's so, I think if you'd asked me prior to the launch, I'd probably have had a different answer. But I think I'm part of the problem with this, but I think the market is oversaturated at the moment.
Okay.
I know I've literally in the last few days released my book as an ebook, but the market is oversaturated with people like myself releasing cocktail books because it is a quick win, especially if you do it in 3 months. And it's a relatively, as long as you've got some knowledge and you're quite good digitally and you've got a decent camera, it's a nice way to put out content for your following. So I think with that caveat aside, there is a lot of traditional cocktail books, let's say, that I adore. Smuggler's Cove
good one.
Is fantastic. It's almost too good. Like there's so much that I thought I knew about rum, and then I bought Smuggler's Cove, and I don't think I knew anything about life. Never mind rum. It's just there's just so much in it. It's just intense. Don't get me wrong, fantastic book. It's so thick as well. Like how have they managed to get so many pages about rum and still feel like they need 3 or 4 more books? Just experts. So for me, that is what I'd look for in a Bible is people who are truly, truly experts pouring their heart and soul onto the page. Death and Co. definitely at the time were experts in the craft. And definitely Smuggler's Cove for me, huge one.
Those are fantastic choices.
One that'll always hold a special place in the heart, but it's completely different to any other, is the Savoy Cocktail Book. Just the Savoy Cocktail Book.
I've never heard of this one.
I may have a copy.
Savoy, how do you spell that?
Savoy.
Oh, immediately came up by Harry Craddock.
Here it is. So the little Savoy Cocktail Book, and it is more like a Bible. It is tiny. And it is from the early 1900s, maybe 1920 was the first publication around there.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. It says both extremely fun characterized London's high society in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna add it to the cart because I've never heard of this. So good to know.
So, so the illustrations are all real old worldy, and there's no shite in it. It's just it's the absolute bare bones of a cocktail book. So you can see just at a quick
Oh,
glance.
that's so much
It's
better
just
than all
drinks.
this. It's just drinks. That's all. I love that. I love the fact that
Like
it's that
you can
that
flip to
easy.
any page, and it is just alphabetically. It's just page after page after page of different cocktails.
Okay.
Like I would highly recommend.
All
Um,
right.
One thing that is slightly weird is that
Mm,
in the 1930s they didn't use jiggers like we do now, and they didn't have a set measurement. So
mm,
a lot of the times it will just say like half a glass or a third of glass of like gin or whatever, and you've got to decipher slightly what ratio they're actually going for.
yeah.
Also knowing that they loved a boozier cocktail back then. The palates weren't as the same as they are now. We definitely like sweeter cocktails, I'd say, in this day and age.
Mm,
We like a little bit more in our drink. They
yeah.
liked booze,
Mm.
and they were
It's
coming around the
1930s. Yeah.
Prohibition era. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they just wanted hard liquor. They did
Yeah.
not want anything else. And yeah, it's a brilliant book. One of the brands I've got a really close affiliation with, Cronin Swedish Punch. It's a brilliant liqueur, rum-based liqueur from Sweden,
Mm.
and it's incredibly old, hundreds of years old. This product. Weirdly, 22 drinks in the Savoy Cocktail Book feature it. So in the 1930s,
Hmm.
22 cocktails had Swedish Punch in, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna see if I can order this. Cronin Swedish Punch liqueur. Yeah, maybe I can try to order that.
It's it's unbelievable. They use a split base of I want to say, oh, you'll kill me if I get this wrong. It's either Bermudan or Guyanan rum.
Mm.
I can't tell. And the other half is Batavia Iraq, which gives this real like earthy spice to it. Um,
Huh.
and the spices they use are just tremendous. One way I've described it to people is like a more adult version of Velvet Falernum.
Hmm.
So Velvet Falernum bottled off the top of my head at 13% ABV. I may be
Okay.
wrong on that. And I think Cronin is 26% ABV. I may be wrong on that. Velvet Falernum's either 11 or 13.
The Velvet Forlarum, it is says 11% ABV, and the
And
Swedish
I think Swedish
Punch.
Punch 26.
Why are you not showing me your ABV? Just show me how much to buy and blah, blah. Show me the ABV, man. But I'll find it first in a second. But that's interesting because I did not even hear of that book, never once ever. And when I'm looking for the Savoy cocktail
Yeah.
book, that's a good one. I know Smuggler's Cove. To your point, Smuggler's Cove has been one of the staples in the house. We have it for because I like rum, I like tiki cocktails, I like all that. Yeah, the show's called Bourbon and Bullshit, but I started with rums and something simpler back in my day. I'm Hispanic, so for the most part, we drank a lot of rum coming up. Like so when as I got older, I explored bourbon. But yeah, Smuggler's Cove spoke volumes to me, especially when you think about the whole tiki industry being so unique,
Mm.
the history, the rich history behind it, the stories, and yeah, as you spoke about it earlier, your cocktails, part of what really dials it home for you is the storyline. And even in the bourbon industry, we're buying history, we're buying a story, we're buying lineage. It's like, oh, this father's fathers of this pre-prohibition, all this stuff. It's about the story. It's not, hey, some dude named Jeff made a bunch of stuff in a tub. Like that wouldn't do it as much as the storyline. And with all cocktails and spirits, there's a there was a I forgot who said it, but there was about content creation and just writers and anyone who's creating anything. Do what you love, do what speaks volumes to you. Don't make something for the crowd, make something that you're passionate about because that passion seeps through. People aren't
Yeah.
buying necessarily your product, they're buying how much love and passion you put into it. Same thing with your drinks, same thing with these rums, same thing with these books.
Yeah. Oh,
So
100%.
100%. We're going to take a quick break. I have so much more questions for you, but we want to make sure that
No
we give
problem.
some love to the people who have keep our lights on. And the very first message is always don't drink and drive, guys. So be right back. Hey guys, while you're listening to the show, we know that you might want to partake in some drinks with us and enjoy in the libations. Here at Bourbon and BullSh, we ask that you drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive, avoid Amazon one-click buy, and for the love of God, do not text your ex. You do not need that kind of closure. They've moved on, so should you, Joseph. You should stop Facebook stalking. She knows. She knows. Now, all jokes aside, don't do anything dumb, take care of yourselves, and be safe. Thanks, guys. Now back to the show. All right, guys, we are back, and we are about to do our first pour as we continue to get to know David and everything that he has been putting together. So we're going to go ahead, pour this up. So, David, could you introduce everyone to what I'm about to drink? Because I've never had this before, so I have no knowledge.
This bottle is from the Micil distillery. Although it may look like some it'll be pronounced Micil or Mitchell, but it's Micil with a hard C, well, K. And it's from Galway in Ireland, like all poitín is. And poitín effectively is moonshine. It predates whiskey. So this is, to many people, especially around the UK, the oldest spirit available. The irony to that is that not a lot of people, even in the UK, have ever heard of poitín. I had not really heard much about it until I started researching for the book, and then luckily had the pleasure of trying an awful lot. And as you can imagine, as it's a moonshine, everyone makes it slightly differently, which means they all taste very, very differently. I'm very glad you chose this one. So this Micil Heritage, yeah, this is a good one. This is less on the malty sweet side of a poitín and more on a peaty smoke bomb. So if you like peaty spirits, like an Islay whiskey, you will love this. You can really taste the salinity, the harshness of it. It's not the smoothest of products, but it doesn't need to be. It's delicious. I find spirits like Laphroaig or Ardmore can have the same harshness, but it's sort of what you're buying into with such a smoky, earthy, vegetal spirit. I've already made myself a little pour, so I might have a little sip.
My fiance's bringing me a clean glass. Apparently, I messed up and did not have one. Thank you, baby. She brought it too, just in case. I was like, "Oh, I don't have a clean glass in here." I'm
I'm very ambitious with this pour.
Ooh, that smells good. What? Okay.
Really smoky.
Okay, so we're let me close this up before I spill anything. She's awesome for just delivering a glass. So cheers. Let me try this out.
Cheers.
That's different. I'm getting that peat, like that little after. Okay, I'm gonna try one. This is better than any moonshine I've had here in the States. That's unique, man. I've never had this. It's almost like a clarified scotch, like a little bit. Like it's interesting.
It's got a touch of sweetness as well.
It smelled sweet in the nose for sure.
Yeah, really tasty, and I think it opens the door to so many different cocktail applications. You could use it like a traditional Irish whiskey rather than an Islay, and make like a smoky Irish coffee, or make a clear, like crystal clear old fashioned. You can make so many different things with this.
As I'm like,
I love it.
It's having so many. So it's hard to describe, but it's to anyone who's listening, it really does taste like a good scotch. It has like that smoky, peaty taste in the after, as a sweet in the nose. It finishes like I'm drinking like a Macallan or something. Like the taste after, this is way better than any moonshine in America. I will never, ever. Don't worry about the moonshine over here in the States, man. It's trash. But all right, so you talked about some of those cocktails. I'm glad I picked this too. I just picked it because of it seemed to pop up as one of your strong recommendations. And went on their site. They highly regarded. I liked their story, and this Irish poitín. I always miss poitín. Is just interesting. I'm not mad that I paid to get this over here in the States. Like, I'm not gonna lie to
Not
you.
really good stuff.
There was a moment of like, I really want to enjoy this. I don't know what this is gonna be like. I'm gonna order this. Heaven forbid I have to lie to this man and tell him that this is great. Meanwhile, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. I could see the creativity with it.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely very similar to an islet, I'd say. It'd be really good in a penicillin if you wanted a clear float on top of the drink. There's many applications for it. I mean, I'd use this as well. Obviously, I did in the book, but I'd use this as a base of a cocktail
what
rather
was your
than just as a
favorite
modifier.
what was your favorite cocktail that you made with this? Or the one that
This one was actually included a lot in the Halloween launch. So if I'm right, I think this was also included in the Freddy Krueger drink as the base for that.
that was part of the reason. I'm pretty sure that
Yeah,
was part of the reason why I ordered it too.
yeah. So really good. I've done funny enough, the duck fat wash. I did that on both the Mickel and on the Ban Poitín.
Mhm.
Um, and it was 50-50 which one entered the book. I was really torn.
Mhm.
Um, the idea behind the drink with the duck fat wash, I believe it was King Charles II, I think it was called. Um, and the reason behind that was because when King Charles II came into power, one of the first things he did was ban poitín. So he upped the taxes on it and basically wiped out poitín production,
Oh,
which is why it became this more moonshine style of product because people just made it secretively. And
people will find a way. People will find a way.
uh, the idea for that was I wanted something regal and royal to match the name. And
Mhm.
then for some reason decided to convert duck l'orange, which is duck and orange sauce, into a cocktail. So I felt doing a duck fat wash made a lot of sense, and
I
it
was
worked both really well.
I was wondering how we got the duck fat washed. Like I don't I like I'm not gonna like was there because I was reading this and looking. So for listeners at home who haven't read the book, there is a cocktail that asks for duck fat washed poutine, poutine. I keep mispronouncing this. Sorry about that. Um, but the spirit and I was thrown off. I was like, did we go through like experiments? Like, hey, we're gonna fat wash this in bacon, or we're gonna fat wash this in something else. Like, why we landed on that? But it's so you ended up answering it for me. You're trying to like
Yeah, it's
complain
all
with Duck
story
Orange.
based. Most of the cocktails all have some sort of story to them,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the reasons for something weird being in the book is probably because I had an idea story wise that was better than the drink, and then I needed to
Mm.
reverse engineer a drink to fit the story. Uh, it's like story always comes first, and then
Yeah.
drink second, which is a nightmare when you're trying to make cocktails. It's not
Mm-hmm.
what I'd recommend to any bartenders to go with story first. But for me and the space that I operate in, it just it made a lot of sense. And I
Yeah.
enjoy making drinks that have that backstory rather
Mm-hmm.
than just making a tasty drink for tasty drink's sake. I feel as though anyone can, well, more or less anyone can do that in this day and age.
Yeah. Well,
But the story's harder.
yeah. To that, to much lesser extent, obviously. Like I recently had a birthday in not recently, that's a couple months ago in February. I threw a party and I want to make it themed around the seven deadly sins and seven virtues. So finding each sin and then finding a cocktail that fell into it was a challenge, but fun. And I found myself having much higher sense of accomplishment finding the perfect cocktail for that
Yeah.
storyline. So for lust, I thought about the forbidden fruit. So
Oh, I
like
love that.
found a forbidden sour cocktail mix because the pomegranate was originally the real fruit, the apple, whatever, etc.
Oh,
So I was able to play on that. So using a pomegranate liqueur as part of a part of the sour, pomegranate juice, and all these kind of like riffs on it, and I was able to have fun with it. And afterwards, I was like, I was so much more proud that I was able to make that connection than even developing the drink. Like
yeah.
the drink was great. It was delicious. People loved it. But being able to speak to the story to when my friends asked me for it, because we built a menu here in home. So when we had the friends over, like, hey, pick one. And they're like, why is this lust? Or it's like, oh, it's a forbidden sour, forbidden fruit. And when we were able to speak to the backstory or alleged, the real fruit was a pomegranate, or aka the Chinese apple, etc. And we wanted to make this forbidden sour, and it was cool to have fun with it in just that story. Each one, gluttony, sloth was just a real big joke. Sloth is like, let me give you the laziest cocktail I can make you. I have a freezer Manhattan. I'm just gonna pour it up and move on with my day. Or the bartender's choice on shots, and our pours, because we're grown, we don't do shots as much. So yeah, it's fun. I obviously from a lesser extent than yours, or being able to make that storyline and put it together is cool. I can see the passion, man, and it's. Hey guys, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode of Bourbon and Bullshit, featuring the Bohemian Mixologist from Speakeasy UK. Make sure that you tune in next week for the completion of this episode as we go into part 2 and dig a little bit deeper into his Mona Lisa of cocktails, his Death Door cocktail, and everything that makes him unique. David has been a fantastic guest. He's an author, content creator, and accountant. So make sure that you tune in next week and give him a follow at Speakeasy UK or at Bohemian Mixologist, and check out his book online, now available in ebook, Bohemian Mixologist, Alternative Spirits and Modern Cocktails. All right, guys, so stay tuned to next week and take care. Bye, everyone. Hey, guys, today's episode is brought to you by Burn, Termite, and Pest Control. I first met Joe Byrne on Full Frontal Nerdity Show and decided to give his company a try. They have been the best pest service I've ever had. From flexible scheduling, attention to detail, fair pricing, and everything you love about a small business, I highly recommend Joe Byrne and Burn, Termite, and Pest Control. It's a family-owned and operated business with over 30 years of experience in termite and pest. You can reach Burn, Termite, and Pest Control at 321-297-7985. Once again, 321-297-7985. And let them know Bourbon and Bullshit sent you. Thanks, guys. See you next time.